Okay, let's jump into our second mini section, and I want to show you the best way to open up ArcGIS Pro if you are working on a project that you already have going. And that is to go to the place where your project is stored and make sure that if you're saving it on OneDrive, I'm not sure if the server has this kind of system with the icons, but on OneDrive, this solid green check mark means that all of your data in this folder has been downloaded to your C drive. Okay, you want to see all of these green check marks. And if you're using a school computer, this is especially important because at least in the library, that ATLC, every time you log onto a computer, if you want to use your OneDrive, you need to sync it, okay, each time you log on. So ArcGIS Pro cannot work with data that is in the cloud. Okay, so you just have to be patient, wait until you see all of these green check marks, and then you can double click on this .aprx file, and that is the root file for your project. That will open up your project within the software. Okay, so now what we're going to do is add several layers, okay? Turn them all off except for one, and then just start exporting these layers one at a time. Now, please keep in mind, the export process in this program can take quite a while, especially when you're trying to export terrain or data-heavy sets that are being streamed in. Okay, so I just want you to be aware that you need to be patient, and I also want you to have a pencil and paper with you during this part of the project, because you will be writing about your watershed, and I will be reading your short essays very carefully, and all I want is you're now educated because we've been studying watersheds, but also your intuitive feel for this land that you have chosen to depict in this project, okay? Please don't use AI or anything like that. The whole point of the writing part of this assignment is for you to see that, yes, you can recognize features, you can recognize terrain with your eyes on a 2D map. Okay, you can really read it, almost like Braille. All right. So let's twirl these guys closed, turn them off, and we're going to get rid of these two maps. Hold down Shift, right click, and remove. Okay, so let's come over to our catalog, and we're going to go to Portal. All right, and I have this in my, let's just come over here. You guys don't care if I have it in my favorites or not. And we're going to just type in USGS topo. And we don't want this one. We don't want historical. This is the one we want. Okay, so let's drag and drop that down at the bottom. Okay, so that's the topo. We actually want this guy, the national map. So let's put that underneath. I didn't know about this one. And if we turn this guy off, oh wow, this is a busy area. Okay, now everybody's map is going to be different, and I want you to be as creative as possible. And always remember, creativity is thinking outside the box to solve your objectives. Okay, so I've worked hard to streamline this process for you guys, but there's all kinds of base maps in here. There's all kinds of data sets so you can explore, but I want to just show you the most basic and streamlined way to do this project, okay? And I'm going to keep this USA Topo Maps because I do want to export that and see what that's going to look like down the road. But for now, I am going to turn these off. Okay, now let's turn that off, and we are going to get the terrain data set. So type in terrain. Now, this for me is the greatest data set on the planet. It's awesome. It's the entire world. Okay, the space shuttle at one point spent several years collecting terrain data from across the planet. Okay, so there's DEMs anywhere on this earth that you can zoom into, and you'll get extremely high resolution data for that. Okay, so this is like virgin data. Okay, it hasn't been manipulated into something that's tinted or has a shadow or anything like that. And so most of the time when you're doing a project where terrain is essential, you really want this to be part of your data set, okay? And what we're gonna do now is, since this is such a large data set, is I'm gonna bring it in and I'm gonna show you how to use that HDR and the stretch, and then we're gonna export this one while it's fresh on our screen. Okay, now you may remember that on Tuesday I was clipping our data. Okay, so it was only it would only be seen within the bounds of your watershed. I don't want to do that anymore because we can easily clip it in Photoshop, and I want to give you the option of rendering in several different ways. Okay, and once you've exported the whole data set, you will have you'll have different options. All right, enough said. Let's put that fella on the bottom. Okay, now again, this is a time-consuming process, so be patient. But what I want you to do is get that pencil and your sketchbook out, or whatever you want to write on. Okay, and as this data set starts to appear, I want you to just softly look at the lights and the darks, and what you want to pay attention to most of all is, once we apply that HDR, okay, where is sea level here? Okay, because when we apply HDR, okay, so right now everything's kind of this bland gray. Actually, it actually looks really good because we haven't even applied HDR yet. But this is a stretched out set of gray pixels. Remember what we talked about before, that you can zoom out to the entire world, and your brightest white pixel will be the top of Mount Everest, and your pitch black pixel will be the bottom of Lake Baikal in Russia, okay? And what we've got here is sort of a grayish middle ground of all of that, all right? But what we're going to do, and this is so awesome, if your terrain layer is selected, go to Image Service Layer. We're going to take that entire 255 shades of gray, And we are going to say, find our Mount Everest here and find our Lake Baikal here. And then stretch out those other 253 pixels on that spectrum. So this is your whole world, okay? So that's why high dynamic range is so incredible, okay? So let me get to that here. 1 second. Okay, I am not sure what is happening. I have never not seen the HDR button here, okay? However, right click on terrain and choose symbology, okay? And the symbology pane opens up. And symbology simply means the way your data is being visualized on your map. And we're using this grayscale, okay? So our stretch type we're going to get to later, but here under statistics, instead of the entire data set, we are going to choose that DRA, okay? And it uses the statistics from the current display extent. Okay, so let's click that. Okay, so you can already see a big difference, and you can see that it's still chomping at the bit. So anytime you're wondering, hey, what's going on? Why can't I do something? Always remember to look at this, these two circular arrows here. And if they're spinning, it means your graphics card is still drawing the data on your screen. Okay, now second very important step is to change the stretch type to standard deviation. Okay, now we are talking, all right? This is going to be a really funky data set. Now, I'm a little concerned. Don't zoom in and out at this point because everything's going to have to regenerate. I'm a little concerned about some of this white, pure white here. Okay, those are called blown out pixels. That means there's really no data here, and that's just going to be flat. And I'm not going to mess with it here. I will do some things in Photoshop, but this looks good. All right, now I want you to hold down Control, hit S to save your project. Okay, mine didn't save. There we go. Okay, now last part of this mini section. We're going to start exporting. So go to Share, and you're going to export the layout. Okay, now this is super important. I have tried so many different export methods here, and this is really the only one that works pretty well for files this size. Okay, so first of all, it has to be a PDF, all right? For some reason, they like their images, and that's how we're going to export this as in a PDF package, okay? Then you got to tell it where it's going to go, all right? So let's click on this browse arrow, and that's my old folder, okay. Okay, now I want you to make a new folder, okay? Click on that guy, and I want you to name it what your watershed is But if it has a state name, just put the state initials and then rendering. Okay. Then that's it. You're just telling it which folder to put. No, you're not. Okay, you're going to open up that folder, and then the name of the file is here. And this is going to be called your height map. Okay, and if you're familiar with 3D rendering, you may know what that means. It's also called a displacement map. We're just going to call it a height map. All right, so click OK. Now, these settings are really important. There's nothing to clip. There's no background to remove. So all of this unchecked. We are going to output this as a JPEG. Okay, not the best, but otherwise it just takes too long. Okay, put your quality right about here. Okay, don't worry about the compressed vector. There's nothing vector in here. This is all raster based. It's all pixel based. Then slide this baby all the way over to best. Okay, we definitely want the 300 DPI. Okay, and then we don't need any geo reference information. Okay, now what I want you to do is save preset, but I want you to save it in that rendering folder, because if you're on a school machine, it's going to go into roaming data and you'll never find it again. So go to your rendering folder, and that is where it's going to go. Okay, and then you're going to name this Watershed and just put a space, rendering preset, and then click OK. So I guess that's saved, but I'll go through this with you again. Now, I want you to do a Control S and save your project. Okay. Now, what I really want you to do, and I know this is going to be difficult, but when you hit export, I want you to get your paper, your pen and paper out, and I want you to start visualizing, okay, from the northwest corner on down. You may have a coastline here and you may just want to go east or vice versa, but I want you to start seeing what is going on here. Okay, we have some very dramatic rivers here. All right, we have some ridge lines, and just go kind of gaze over this landscape and get to know it just through black and white. Okay, and imagine what's happening here. You can see there's swales and spurs and swales and spurs, and this must be a valley, okay, because you have two wide ridges on either side. And it's going to be fascinating to see the way that geology has shaped this earth once we put a map and some color on top of this. But I want you to start learning how to read the earth without all of the window dressing, so to speak. You're landscape architects, okay? You really I want you to know the land, okay? And so that's what I want you to write about. And the write-up of for this project is going to be worth a full 20% of your grade. Okay, so please take it seriously. All right. So I'm going to hit export, and then I am going to close this video out, and we will begin, and then I'll get a video 3 up and going when this export is done.